My name is Shannon, and I am a. Oop, nope, that's not supposed to be happening. Sorry, it works. I talk with my hands. Um, I work at the University of Louisville. I'm a full-time PhD student and graduate assistant. And up until this year, I worked at Cochran Elementary in Louisville, Kentucky, where I had the pleasure of becoming great, what I consider great friends with and colleagues of Miss Margot Smith. And that's what led us into our talk today, which is where we're actually going to get to hear from the students themselves about VR and what they like about it. So I'm going to hand it over to Miss Smith and let her get her started.
All right, thank you so much, Shannon. So my name is Margot Smith, and I am the teacher in residence at Cochran Elementary School in Louisville, Kentucky. And what that title means is that we have a partnership with the University of Louisville. And so my job is kind of twofold. I act as a liaison between the University of Louisville and Cochrane. So part of my job, I get to supervise and mentor our student teachers and methods teachers that we have. Sometimes I get to teach some of the education courses at the University of Louisville. So we have like a clinical model, and some of those courses are held at our school. So this past year, I taught a writing methods course last semester, and I just taught a reading methods course this semester to pre-service teachers. And then the other half of my job, I get to collaborate with all the teachers K to 5 at Cochrane. So I do intervention groups, I co-teach with teachers, I help lead our team meetings and things like that. So I kind of wear many different hats. But I'm so excited to be with you today. Shannon has been instrumental in helping to get the first ever VR lab in Jefferson County Public Schools, and I think in the state of Kentucky. We were lucky enough to have her and use her skill and expertise to get a virtual reality lab at Cochrane, and it has just been instrumental in helping our kids get more comfortable with technology and also help the adults like myself get more comfortable with technology. I always call on Shannon like when I can't log into something or if I'm having technical difficulties. She's my right hand person that I go to help me out with that. My daughters are Jordan and Jalen, so I'll let them introduce themselves to you. Jalen, you want to start?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jalen, and I'm 8 years old, and I'm at second grade.
All right, Jordan.
Hello, my name is Jordan, and I'm 8 years old, and I am in second grade at Cochran Elementary.
All right, ladies. And in that picture on the screen there, if you're curious, Jordan is on the left with like the purple hair bows, and Jalen is on the right with the pink hair bows. So I used to help tell them apart, I used to do pink and purple all the time. But now that they're getting quote unquote older, they're like, Mom, we don't want to wear pink and purple anymore. So their personalities are definitely starting to come out, and I'm trying to let them be individuals, and they have their own style now. But they're going to talk to you in the beginning about what VR means to them and how they have used it and helped other students at Cochrane use it. And then after they get finished, I'm going to talk a little bit about, from the teacher perspective, when I was in the classroom last year, how that helped my students in 5th grade last year. All right, so Jalen, do you want to start us off with the next slide?
Where we started with VR. The
Original
VR lab started with Oculus Go. We learned the equipment quickly and soon became lab assistants. We helped new students learn how to use the headsets and controllers.
All right. Jordan, you want to read the next one?
Sure. Who used VR with us? Everybody. We used our charm to reel them in.
All right, and as you can see, there's lots of photos there of them helping students log into the headsets that we used to have, and Miss Shannon just absolutely adored them, so they kind of got a little bit of special treatment, and they became her lab assistants and would help her out, helping the students get logged in and things like that.
Guilty as charged. As you can see, it's kind of hard to resist them. So I would get to actually play with them. And like they said, they picked it up so quickly that when I would have other students, or as you can see, other teachers that needed help, I wasn't able to help everybody all at the same time. And so I could count on Jordan and Jalen to actually teach not only the other students, but teach the teachers on how to use the equipment. And when they say that everybody got to uses VR at Cochrane, they mean everybody. We have 4 special education classrooms, and all of them came and all of them use VR, as well as we have 2 hearing impaired deaf classes, and they also utilize VR. So as long as they are able to and they have parental permission, then every student at our school is included in the virtual reality activities.
Yes, and just a real quick story side note about who gets to use or help them with using the headset. Shannon actually did the role that I'm in now, and when she decided to pursue her PhD at the University of Louisville, I applied for her position this school year, and my daughters were like, "Mommy, you don't know how to use the headset. You're not going to be able to run the VR lab." So I was like, "You're right. You're going to help me." So they were instrumental in helping their own mother learn how to get more comfortable with the headset.
And she's done wonderful.
Thank you. All right. Jordan and Jalen, you want to talk about what you like most about VR? So
Yes.
we're going to talk about this. What?
Yeah. What we like most about VR. We got to use Paint VR to create a setting for our video game. We even got to play games like Epic. I like this game because I like roller coasters, and it makes me feel like I'm really on a roller coaster.
All right. And Jordan, you want to share what you like?
Yes. After
Sure.
class math.
So
After class is a game that is a relay race game in VR. So how to play is that there's 3 teams and there's 3 headsets, and then both the teams run to the headset and gently pick it up and put it on their head and try to solve the equation. After they solve it, they write a new equation for the other person to get on their team.
And how did that game help you in math class?
It helped me because I got to learn new math equations because I have never learned.
Good job.
Very good. Absolutely. And what she was explaining was we actually made it into a game. So if you only have a couple of headsets, you can still include the entire class in the activity. So we set 3 headsets up on one side of the room, and then we had 3 lines of students on the other. And so just like a classic relay race that you would do in gym class, but instead of on scooter boards, they would walk over to the headset and, as she so wonderfully said, gently put it on, and then solve the math problem, and then it would be the next person's turn. And so it was actually a fun competition that not only worked on math, but allowed the kids to learn the tools of the headset and also be up and moving, not just sitting in their desk working on a worksheet, and then learning competition, what it's like to take turns, how to cheer your teammates on, how to gracefully lose, which a lot of us have trouble with, not any of us in this room, of course, but in general, people do. So we were able to work on all those different things, and we only needed 3 headsets. So it's a great way to do things, to incorporate things even with a limited amount of technology. Okay. Let me see if I can go to the next one.
All right, and so where we are now, earlier we showed you pictures of how, when our lab first started, we had the Oculus Go headsets, but now, again, thanks to Shannon, her superb grant writing skills and her Vive Pro I and the Vive Focus Plus headset, and you can see the kids there boxes and allowing the kids to take part in owning that, because she really does make the lab feel like it's theirs, and she wants them to be the manager of the lab, so that it kind of takes the pressure off of us adults of always stepping in and telling them what to do. So we have created jobs, which each of the kids in each class are responsible for, taking care of the headset. Britton and Jalen, do you want to tell the audience what your job you were responsible for doing with the new headsets?
Yes.
What was your job, Jen?
So what I was responsible of doing with the headset is clean the headsets that we use, but you don't have to clean the lens, because then when you get on the headset, it'll be like all blurry. So you have to clean like the outside and like all the other parts except for the islands.
All right, good job. And Jalen, what was your job?
My job was to put the headsets in order. So like I have headset number 5 on my eyes right now. And if school wasn't closed, if it was still open, I will put the headsets back in order. Like if it says number 5, I put my headset on number 5.
Good job. Right, and so yeah, like she said, we literally just got these headsets a few weeks before we had to close down school. But again, the kids were all assigned certain jobs and things like that, and they were just beginning to use the brand new headsets. So we know that they're still super excited whenever school does open back up. We're just going to pick up where we left off, and so that they can still have that practice with using different apps within VR and to help enhance what they're learning in the classroom. That's kind of our plans to continue with that is for the upcoming school year. All right, and so Jordan, I'm sorry.
No, nope. I was just agreeing with you and saying that as we transition to the HTC Vive Focus Plus headsets as the major standalone headset, one of the things that we're really excited is for the students to not only be consumers but be creators. And that started with, they actually walked out to my car with me and helped me carry them in and unboxed them. Learned how to put the batteries in, and learned how the headsets actually physically worked and every aspect of it, because we want them to be prepared for their future and for whatever life is going to bring to them. And as Marco mentioned, taking responsibility for this equipment. It's very expensive equipment, and we're trusting them to use it and be responsible with it. And so by involving them in every aspect of it, we're creating that ownership with them. And we've seen great results with that, because they care, because they know this is something special and not everybody is getting to do it.
Exactly. All right, so we're going to turn it over to Jordan and Jalen for a few moments. They are going to show you how to use Engage, like a couple of cool things that you can do with Engage. So we're going to let them take the floor. Jalen, if you want to explain what you're about to do.
So you take your controller and you hit the menu button, and then you click IFX. Then there's different numbers on the bottom. So I'm bring a plan in. We had to.
All right, so you just brought in a lion into the classroom?
Yes.
All right, Jordan, can you tell us about like some things that you can make the lion do? You want to bring in an animal, Jordan?
Yes. So I will bring in a zebra. What you can do, you can make the animal smaller on your right controller. It's like the two sides, left and right. So the plus sign on your controller, right controller, is what you can make it bigger. And then on the other side where it says minus, you can make it smaller if you don't like it too much. And then you can place it wherever you want it, like that. And then you have to point at the zebra, and then there's this like little trash can. Make it delete, and then you just click it, and then it's deleted.
How cool is that? Jalen, why do you like being able to bring in animals into the different environments? Like, how does that help you? What does that help you
It helps me learn about different animals. So when I read a book, like I can tell all my friends about like an animal, what it can do, and their body parts, and how they
learn?
can eat.
And then in VR, you can show your friends what?
In VR, I can show my friends how to bring it in the classroom or like in different environments.
Mm-hmm. And Jordan, what have you learned?
I've learned that you can see what you notice about the animal and write it down.
Mm-hmm. All right. So do you want to bring in a couple more animals just real quick to show them again how
Yes.
that works? Tell them how to do it again. What do you press?
A
Press the
menu.
menu button, and then you go to the animals part. You go to IFX. Then there's like different animals that will pop up on your screen, and then there's this little bar like down at the bottom, and then you can click each number to see, like I want to bring in a
A dinosaur?
It's
like bird.
I don't know what it is, but it's on. Hold on. It's on number 4, the first one.
See the birds. Then how to delete it is you click there's this little trash can and it says like delete.
And if you guys look outside the window, you can see birds flying outside too. I didn't even know you could do that. It was actually either Jordan or Jalen when we were practicing for this that put one of the animals outside. And it was really cool. I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know you could put it out there. And so kids discover things that we don't even know.
Right, and like she said, in just a few minutes, I'm going to talk more about like the 3D aspect, but just, providing students opportunities like this to be able to explore things that they may be reading about in science class or during reading time, and then to actually be able to see it in 3D. And like Jordan said, they can look at it closely and observe what the animal is doing and write about that and come up with creative stories and do all kinds of things. So it really just helps the learning come alive in the classroom.
And what's really impressive is I sometimes forget because these guys are so awesome and Margot's such a great mom and working with them that I forget that, I mean, these guys are 8 years old and they literally just pulled and show and
Uh-oh.
Did we lose Shannon?
Yeah,
We lost it.
Oh boy, she'll be back in very soon, I'm
Right.
sure.
While we're waiting, do
Yeah,
y'all have any questions?
Any questions, anybody? Rouge, I see that you are, or either of you, can you give me co-host privileges? I work with Engage and I can help monitor the crowd and unmute people's mics and stuff. Do you know how to do that?
Oh, let's see.
If you pull up your menu in the upper right-hand corner. Oh, there's Shannon.
There we
Hey,
go.
Shannon.
Hey.
Do you mind giving me co-host privileges, Shannon, again? I'll help
Sure.
out a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
I don't know. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. I will blame it on U of L's Wi-Fi. Of course, and not myself. Just kidding. U of L's wonderful. I'm just kidding.
Great, thank you.
What I was saying was that these girls are so awesome that I often forget that they're only 8 years old and they were literally just able to tell you word for word how they brought in different assets and explain it to you. And I just think that's unbelievable that at that age we already have them creating and teaching utilizing VR. Like I said, I don't know what other second graders are out there presenting at an international conference, but these girls are ahead of the game for sure. Try and get myself reset back up. Sorry about that. There we go. Almost. All right. I don't know if some. There we go. Hoop, hoop.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine.
Gotta love technology.
I can pick up with the next slide, Miss Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
So just a little bit of things coming from the teacher perspective and kind of what we do at Cochrane and how we've used VR within our school and within our classroom. Our district is unique. I think we may be like one of the first districts or one of the few that has what's called a digital backpack. And so the idea behind it was for each student, K to 12, to have their own Google account and have this digital backpack that is full of what we call success skills, and there's 5 success skills that are housed within that backpack. So the skills are prepared and resilient learner, effective communicator, effective collaborator, emerging innovator, and globally and culturally competent citizen. I think I might have hit all of them. But the idea is for students, as we give them like project-based learning activities and lessons to do within the classroom, any of those lessons and activities that students do, they can upload those to their digital backpack. And so by the end of the year, we call those artifacts. And so we want kids to have anywhere from like 10 to 20 quality artifacts that says, here, this is how I was an emerging innovator this year, or this is how I was a prepared and resilient learner, that kind of thing. So earlier you heard Jordan and Jalen talking about the Paint VR app, and Jalen said that they were creating like a setting for their video game using that app in VR. So what myself and another colleague and Miss Shannon, what we were working on this year, we were working with our 2nd and 3rd graders specifically on teaching them how to go about creating their own video game. And they were going to, and we were going to put it under their emerging innovator artifact in their backpack until we unexpectedly had to close down. Jordan, Jalen, stop. Thank you. So the kids they had to think about the setting. They drew like a storyboard that kind of mapped out what they wanted their video game to be, who the audience was going to be, thinking about the directions, those kinds of things. They used that Paint VR app to kind of draft like what they wanted that setting to be. So we were doing some really cool things, like I said, until we had to close down. Last year with my 5th graders, VR was really instrumental. We have to teach a lot of social studies to our 5th graders. And so I think on the next slide, Miss Shannon,
I can
sorry,
come
if
back
you want to
to
go
those.
back. I kind of jumped ahead, but
Okay.
with the about using the VR in the classroom, we've used it for public speaking. With that backpack, all 5th, 8th, and 12th graders have to be able to do what's called a defense. So they're defending why they're ready to move on to the next level, and why the 12th graders especially, why they're college and career ready. They also reference their artifacts that I was talking about, and then they have the ability to create and articulate a point through VR. So we tested it out last year with some of our 5th graders by allowing them to do their defense virtually. So instead of just doing it in front of a panel, some of our 5th graders that were on our technology team the opportunity to use that speaking app to help them give their defense virtually. And, fortunately for them, things like this are, as you can see, going to be important if we continue to experience like what our NTI instruction and having to have virtual days in the classroom. Our kids are really going to have to become more comfortable learning technology and knowing how to use that and be able to articulate their points online if we continue to have to go to use e-learning. So VR has really helped our kids be able to do that. And the next slide just shows some pictures of our 5th graders that this is what their backpack defense looks like. So they create their slides within Google, and these students, they did their presentation live in front of a panel, and we used the rubric to score them. But again, they just went to defend why they're ready for the next level. And then, Ms. Shannon, if you wanted to talk about the data, like the kids that used it versus not.
Yeah, so it's a little hard to see the data, but what I'll just explain it is that these students right here, these 6 students, they did it, they practiced all year with virtual reality, and so they utilized that app called virtual speech. And so what they would do is they would actually upload their slides just like they have in front of them on a screen in virtual reality, just like we do today, and they would practice their backpack defense. And so when they started a session, they would hit start and it would record the entire session. So they would then when they got done, they would be able to listen back to it so they would know what they actually sounded like. And then it also gave them a score in multiple areas. So it told them, you said you were speaking 150 words per minute. That's too fast. Slow down. It would tell them you were looking at the left side of the room 80% of the time and the right side of the room 20%. It said it counted how many hesitation words they had. So if they said and then it also gave them a score on eye contact. So if they were constantly looking down, it gave them a score from 0 to 10. And so they practiced and we practiced using that. And so then when we did the backpack defenses, the 6 that that practiced with virtual reality, they passed their backpack defense on the first time with 100%, and their average score on the rubric was a 17. And then the group that did not use VR, only one of them passed on the first time, and their average score was 12. And part of the reasoning we think is, so the backpack is a great idea and we love it, but as teachers, we're so focused on teaching content that I cannot remember the last time we've taught public speaking. And so a major part of the backpack defense is that you have to public speak. Not everybody has the courage to come and speak today like these two. So using virtual reality, we got to help teach public speaking and basically multiply ourselves as teachers, because you could put a student on the headset and they could practice, and then you could go help another student and you could review it afterwards. And also for the student, they had no idea what anybody else was doing. So they didn't have to worry about people staring at them. They didn't have to worry about being embarrassed because nobody could hear them, and they could practice in an environment that was similar, if not almost the exact same, to what they would be experiencing in real life.
And the next couple of this slide, as a 5th grade teacher last year, like I said, we taught a lot of social studies. And what I liked about having at school is that it helped so much with in terms of helping our kids develop a sense of kids to, when you're teaching them about something that happened so long ago, trying to get them to connect to it or to understand it can be rather challenging and difficult. And so what we would do is we would collaborate with Shannon and tell her, like, hey, we're working on this unit, or we're coming up on the American Revolution, or we're about to come up on government. Are there some really cool apps that we could bring the kids in to help this learning, make the learning come alive more for those students? And so it just really helped broaden their perspectives, and it made it come alive where they can read about it in a textbook. Okay, wow, would you rather do that? Would you rather go to a virtual reality lab and actually be able to take the White House or the Capitol building? And that's what we were able to do with our kids. And that this was last year, our social studies scores back on our state test, and our kids outperformed our district, and also in our state. We had like 85% of our kids were on the social studies section alone, and it was because we had made the experience and the learning for them authentic and engaging, and they were able to connect to it and understand it better. I really like My Brother's Keeper. There was a slide there about My New Home. Both of those apps there really help, like I said, with our kids' sense of developing that sense of empathy to understand that not everybody has the luxury to wake up, in a house or an apartment and go to school and not have to worry about things like most of our kids. And so, just it also helped with their perspective, just seeing things from a different lens, and and we would go back to the classroom and have conversations about that. Like, what if this were your life? How would things be different? How would you feel? And so that really helped with like their writing too. That enhanced those experiences helped enhance their writing skills as well. And then mention if you wanted to add anything there.
Sure. So I was just going to add on with the when we did the My Brother's Keeper, what was really exciting about that is a free PBS movie, and it's about 15 minutes, and it's a 360 movie. And what it is it's the story of the Civil War, and it's about one brother who was on the North and one was on the South, and it takes you actually into the middle of the battle. So now you're in the middle of the Civil War and it's all around you. And so we had the students all watch that movie first. And then we talked, like she said, about different aspects. And when we did, what we brought up was that we talked about how the cannonballs were happening. And we explained that, hey, cannonballs, contrary to what a lot of people think, they don't actually explode. The damage that cannonballs do is that they rip right through everything. And so we actually then had the students line up, and you can see I have a basketball that was my cannonball. And selfishly, it was a little fun because I got to huck balls at kids, but just kidding. But we had them line up in a straight line and talked about, okay, now how easy is it for this ball to hit everybody? But then we had them staggered, and we talked about different formations and things like that. So we took what we did in the virtual world, which was impactful and created an emotional connection to the lesson, and we're able to transition that back into the real world and connect the lessons together, connect both parts of it. And so then it was a shared experience with everybody. So that was one of my favorite lessons was My Brother's Keeper. I love that one. And then also, like Margot said, My New Home, because, we're always asking our kids, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Well, that's not easy for everybody. And so now when we, the My New Home, it actually takes them in the middle of the night. You start out by fleeing and you end up in an African refugee camp. You have no idea if your family is going to find you or not. And it's narrated by a young girl who's actually in the camp. And they learned about how, they had to trade soap for food. And they learned about how, this was the hut, and they were actually sitting in their home. 97% free and reduced lunch population. So we have a population that is a low income area. However, it was able to show them that, yes, I know there are challenges that you have, but other people have them too. And, some people have it better, some people have it worse, and let them actually feel what that was like instead of just seeing it on a page or on the screen. And just real quickly, similar to that, if you're ever looking for things, Notes on Blindness is a fantastic experience. It allows you to experience the world as if you were losing your sight. And my grandmother had macular degeneration and lost her vision. And I watched firsthand what she went through, but I never quite understood it to the level that she did. And sometimes, she'd be like, what's that? And you'd like be annoyed, be like, Grandma, it's the same thing. And then doing this app and having my vision taken away, it was like I instantly felt what she had gone through, and it just made me realize, and it kind of made my heart break because she was such a different person before it happened. And so to be able to show people what that's like and what she was actually going through is quite special for me. So I have a real personal connection with that one. My grandma was one of my, and still is one of my all-time heroes. So Jordan and Jalen wanted to go ahead and one more time quickly show how to bring in an asset for everybody, and then I can, if you guys want, I can turn on your permissions, and you can join Jordan and Jalen in bringing in some assets and asking questions and things like that.
That works for me. All right, Jordan and Jalen, so you want to explain to the audience again, because there's some new people that know. How do you bring in some of the animals?
So how you bring in the animals is you click your menu button on your right control, and then you click IFX, and then there's like these different numbers at the bottom. It's 1 through 9. Then you can just click numbers, and you can just like put animals.
All right, can you all like kind of bring in an animal for each person? Maybe each person can put an animal in front of them.
And I know, Chris, I know with you being in here, we're so lucky because I think I can turn things on for everybody. So everybody can do it.
Yep, everybody's got that on.
Okay, there we go. And there's more than animals. We just tend to like the animals the best because let's face it, they're fun. But there's different things you can do. You can get different locations. You can we brought in the screen. You can bring in Greek columns. All different kinds of assets are on there for you to utilize and explore and play with. And so we invite you to come join us in having fun. And please, of course, Jordan and Jalen are open for any questions, and they're super sweet if you want to ask. And so is Margot. Margot, I'm sorry, you're pretty cool too.
Yeah, it's all about them, talking about me.
And then I'll put the slide back to the beginning so I can show them off there. There we go. So
while we're playing around, I just wanted to add to Shannon that I really like these new headsets compared to the Oculus. They are, to me, a little more user friendly. The whole system is a lot more. Used to struggle with the Oculus Go, and I think there are only like 2 buttons on there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't figure anything out. But I just really like the vibes. And so if I can use it, anybody can use it. And from a parent perspective, I don't have any, you always have concerns when your children are on technology and things like that, because things can happen intentionally or unintentionally, but I have not had any issues. Jordan and Jalen using the headsets, haven't had any issues at our school. Our kindergartners, it's cute watching them try to navigate the headsets all the way up to our 5th graders, and so it's just been very age appropriate too.
And we always make sure that with our headsets, that everything is age appropriate, but also every student that uses it has a parental permission. And, we just like to make sure that parents know exactly what's going on. And also, we do not force VR on any student. So if there's a student that just doesn't like it, if it hurts their head, if they don't with their eyes or strain or anything like that, that's absolutely fine. What we'll do is if we're having like a lesson like My New Home or something like that, we will cast that to a TV. So then that way the student can still be a part of the lesson, but not having to have the headset on. So that allows everybody to participate in VR, but unlike other forms of technology like state testing that's done online and you only can do it on the computer, we don't force VR on anybody. And like Margot said, the user-friendly ability is a key. And in the back of the room, there's a woman named Robin, and that's actually my mom. And she works at the school as well. And she is able to not only use VR, but she is teaching people how to use VR. And she will laugh, but I typically make fun of her because she's not the most tech savvy, and she's picked up VR, and I consider her a proficient, excellent user. So I'm really proud of her and what she can do. And so I always say, if Robin can do it, anybody can do it.
Yes, if I can't get a hold of Shannon or figure something out with the headsets, or if Jordan and Jalen are in class, Miss Robin is my next go-to person.
So, well, that's us, and that's a second grader's perspective of VR. And like I said, thank you for joining us. Thank you to Margot and Jordan and Jalen. You guys were unbelievable. This was the most fun I think I've ever had giving a presentation. And I think you guys now permanently have to do every presentation with me.
And Jordan and Jalen, what do you tell the audience?
Thank you.
It's awesome.
Yes, we just thank you all so much. This was their
Thank
very
you.
first time ever doing something like this. This was my first time. I've presented before, but never using a headset. So, yes, thank you for this opportunity, and this has been awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks again for your help.
Absolutely. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, you too.
Shannon, bring the girls over to the fire. They're learning Cherokee.